development. Still with me in studio, Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserves, Reuven Ben-Shalom, an associate at the International Institute for Counter-Terrorism. And when one looks at the numbers and looks at the footage of the interceptions over the skies of Israel, one realizes how many more lives would have been lost without the Iron Dome. The death toll could be in the thousands. Talk to us about how it changes the game, so to speak, having this missile defense system in Israel's hands.
Well, first, I think it's a mistake to think that Israel has this one secret weapon. When you think about it, the entire Israeli doctrine is having these iron domes all around us. For instance, terrorism, simple terrorism that is thwarted day in and day out. Once a year, we hear that about 500 terror attacks were thwarted. That means we don't know that they were supposed to happen, and they were stopped before they happened. In a way, we have layer after layer after layer of intelligence and technological systems, cyber capabilities, and I like what was said in this, what we just heard, because it's not only technology, it's not only the interceptor itself that is genius, by the way. To hit a bullet with a bullet is pure genius. But imagine that you just have a certain amount of batteries. Where do you put them? The assessment of where to put them relies on intelligence and decision-making. Even the whole idea behind the Iron Dome, the fact that many years ago someone had to assess the situation, with a limited budget decide what to go for, and then go for this. Just imagine that Minister Amir Peretz, the one that approved it at the time, he would have decided, you know what, I don't like the Iron Dome, let's take something else. Our whole strategic posture would be different. The only interesting question, it's almost like a theoretical moral question, is that we are so much criticized in the world for the low death toll in Israel compared to the large death toll, or relatively large death toll in Gaza. So sometimes one may think, so what do you want us to do? Turn off the Iron Dome? Like, should we apologize for protecting ourselves so much? And one more point, remember, 90% is just 90%. That means 10% get through. So 3,500 rockets, 10% of that is many rockets. The situation now in Israel, I would say it's not that if it was 100%, by the way, even then this was arguable. Right now, rockets raining down, huge barrages, not all are intercepted, so I'm very happy that it exists. Still, it gives our government some leeway, some time to think and decide, but not enough.
And certainly it still is a very terrifying experience to be running to a shelter with the elderly, with children, in some cases, like we saw in the south, just 15 seconds Absolutely. To get to shelter, not knowing, of course, if that Iron Dome is going to intercept the rocket overhead. We alluded earlier to another point, and that was the issue of morals and ethics in an escalation like this. Very contentious, very close to home for so many people. The concept of civilians, no decent thinking person the world over would ever want any civilian, innocent person to be hurt or even to be scared in a situation like this. Israel is claiming it clears buildings before it goes into Gaza, sends messages to make sure that civilians or even the media are out of certain premises before they target it. Talk us through the process in terms of trying to make sure that civilians are safe when a strike like the one we're going to see in the coming hours is going to play out in Gaza.
Well, remember that the IDF today, we're not on an island without partners. We work with partners, friends, and allies worldwide. Of course, our American friends, British and others, learning from each other, learning from our mistakes, learning from our successes. And we talk about urban warfare. We fight as other Western armies fight today. And as a democracy, we adhere to the law, to moral codes, to norms and values. So first and foremost, it's important to understand how we fight. Terror organizations have the luxury of being free from all moral codes. They can do whatever they want. But of course, when we fight as a democracy is supposed to fight. That should be 100% clear. But there is one more step, and that is the idea, if we understand that we are under the public eye, that we are criticized whatever we do. So what I see, at least, inside these forums where we plan and execute the operations, is being extra careful, making sure that everything, of course, is 100% legal, but not even what we call collateral damage that would be theoretically acceptable. Not even that is acceptable. So if a missile is launched and the operator sees children in the vicinity of the target, he'll divert the missile and it'll go to an open field and he'll miss the target. So none of us think that any target is worth civilians, and this is a calculation that goes on all the time. Without our moral codes and values and laws, we are nothing. We can't exist here without that. That is important to understand, that it's the core of how we operate. It's not only the mission, it's the mission by law and norms.
Lieutenant Colonel in the Reserves, Reuven Ben-Shalom, an associate at the International Institute for Counterterrorism. We so appreciate your insight on this day. Thank you for being here in studio. And now for more on this developing story.